into the nephillim hybrid, even though it's not the image of God, it is a reflection. It is not. It does not have life, but it has the features of that which is to fallen mankind is going to look superior to who we are now in our unglorified state. Well, Connie, go ahead.
Just one last comment. I wanted to look at Revelation real quickly, if I can turn right to it, I hope.
What's the verse?
It's 22:16 and 17. I have it right here. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to testify to you these things for the churches. I am the root, the offspring of David, the bright morning star. The Spirit and the bride say, come, and let the one who hears say, come. And let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who wishes take the water of life without cost. And I think that throughout all of this ordeal, if I did not have the promises of the Lord Jesus Christ in returning for His people, this has been the anchor of what has held me. Just within the last 10 years, I was taken into a country, into an underground system in a mountain range, and I was displayed. Before me was the supposedly creations that they had created from a lot of my seeds. My seeds were harvested because of my bloodline, and I was actually they displayed before me this new race of species they had created from my seeds. And at that point in time, had I not known that Jesus Christ had something far greater for me, there would be no reason to go on. It was as if this was my fruit. And there were distortions of all kinds of things. I would not even want to go into a description of what I was shown through transhumanism and all that they've been doing in the manipulation of the seed. But this is the hope and the anchor that even in the time that we live in, as we discuss these things, that Jesus Christ is reigning, will have His corporate morning star to display His glory. And I just have to say that, because that has been such an anchor in my own life. And also that the heart that is displayed here in Revelation for those who may be in this kind of bondage, because we know that SRA DID is pretty rampant in the body of Christ. And we also realize that there are not enough counselors and enough hours to free a person from this. But Jesus Christ, manifested as the morning star, will reveal the heart of the bride. And those who have that heart, He is yet to move in such a way that we have not seen.
Kind of hold it closer to your mouth.
I don't really feel like I have much to say about it.
Okay. But would you concur then on what is? Please, let me repeat that. Would you concur what you heard? Is that similar to what has happened to you, or do you see? Would you add, or in terms of what happened to you at new birth, and then something is transferable? You're prepared in such a way. So at 13, you've heard the other lady speak.
Right.
Would you comment that that's similar with you, or did you see that?
Well, okay. Well, I guess for me, I have to be real honest. I only know what happened to me, and I haven't always had the spiritual interpretation of things. So some of this is relatively new for me to think about. I'm just really in the stages of, you brought it up in an interview, like with somebody, and it was a new thought for me because I haven't understood why they took me as a Christian. And so I have to say at this point I'm really just beginning to do some prayer work around this for myself. Now I will say that when you that new birth that essence, and be like almost like an MRI, and the trans at 13, they not only transfer the image, they regress you back into, like, at least for me, they regress me back into that initial point of where the heart responded. Even though I was so young, I didn't really understand what it was on a cognitive level. I just knew that something was stirred within me and there was a heart response. And then right after that, it's all the trauma and things that came in and shut that down, locked it all down. But in the conception, they would regress me back to that particular point. So it wasn't just about transferring the image, but it was also taking me back into that event so that I'm in that experience as a Christian. You know, now I'm an adult, my body, you know, or I'm 13 or whatever, and my body is in this event, but for all practical purposes, I am a very tiny little girl in just where that heart responds to God. So, I mean, other than that, I really don't have much to share right now because this is all real. I mean, honestly, I haven't even thought about this.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Anyone, do you have any thoughts? Did you confirm?
I was just thinking about the preparation, the groundwork that was laid at conception in the scoring of my body, soul, and spirit, where the template for the Black Trinity was laid down. My soul is scored into 3 parts, and right in the middle of it came Satan himself with his throne that touched eternity past, eternity future, and heaven and hell. And it was like, and that, I think, I see that as a capacitation to be able to conceive the Nephilim. But as far as the rest of it, I'm still kind of in the process thinking about it too. So,
well, can I just say something? I think what was not brought up until you brought this up, Julie, is that the actual template, because of bloodline, comes in at conception, and it's not so much a scoring of the soul; it's a scoring of the human spirit, because everything is anchored to the human spirit. The soul can have all kinds of programming and altered dynamics, and many counselors never get beyond the soul. But when you get down to the level of the spirit, and when we broke into that domain in 2003, and even before, we were dealing with that, but not really understanding the theology. Yeah, okay. But I mean, in terms of me using a consistent protocol, we're still kind of exploring back in the earlier times between soul and spirit. You're going to be aware of that more than I would be, as Sally's speaking. But the actual template comes in at conception. And so then when it comes to new birth, then the trauma is to separate your conception identity, bad seed. New birth identity, there's Christian, we have this huge conflict. You got light and dark, good and evil, God and Satan. It's just right inside now. We have the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman right there inside. And so in the phenomenology, we have to bring together the conception identity with the new birth identity in order for you to be reconciled at a spiritual level of these core conflicts. But what you said, Julie, at the conception is the scoring right there in the human spirit is the Black Trinity. That's Revelation 16, verse 13. There's the dragon, who is Satan, the beast, who is Antichrist, and the false prophet. These 3 domains are sectioned. They're trifurcated in the domain of the human spirit. This is hard for people to understand, but this is where things are anchored. You have Satan's throne. He does have a throne. We see that in Pergamum in Revelation chapter 2. And he's able to bring that throne into people so that at the conception event, there's an interfacing with you who are bloodlines. And, of course, now with the new generation with Diane, now it's that whole transfer does not require a bloodline at all. Just like in Genesis 6, there was no bloodline issue there. But it's in us to whenever they choose. I mean, we live in that time frame that is exactly parallel to what we see in the days of Noah. So the conception, birth, new birth, all these areas are very important. The adversary has protocol through the programmers to create that which will represent his prototype humanity. And then you have all this other, like you mentioned, where they can harvest eggs. They can even do this with unbelievers and create chimeras. They can create super soldiers. They can create, I think probably some of the mutations, those that are unbelievers that have this experience, because they would die. They don't have that ability to be sustained by God. So the enemy can only go so far, and what is the result of the offspring of those who are not Christians? Very similar to the days of Noah. You can have reptilian, you can have giantism, you can have grays, but that's not the prototype. The prototype is that which only can be created by Satan through Christians captured at a very early level. And I think this is where the church is so asleep, because the church's theology, we can't go there. The conception, the mental conception, theological conception, there's not an adequate framework for the church to grasp the level of captivity that God has allowed himself to be taken captive in this generation. I think one of the illustrations of that is found in Psalm 78. Psalm 78, when it refers to the ark, which is the Old Testament shadow of Christ, his redemptive power. It represented the presence and power of God in Egypt. When they would take the ark out, it was like, this is the presence of God. When we go into battle, we see the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Testimony was used as that which represented the spiritual authority and presence of God in Israel. And we see that in the time of apostasy, in Psalm 78, verse 60, so he abandoned the dwelling place at Shiloh. That takes us back to the time of Samuel, Samuel 4:11. He abandoned his dwelling place at Shiloh, remember, through the apostasy of Eli and the priesthood there. And the tent which he had pitched among them, that is the tabernacle. Notice verse 61. He gave up his strength to captivity. He gave up his strength to captivity and his glory into the hand of the adversary. He gave up his glory into the hand of the adversary and delivered his people with the sword. He gave up his glory to the hand of the adversary. That's what happens when you at new birth, you have been chosen to be nothing but mothers. He has allowed himself to be taken captive. Another passage we see in Matthew 25 with reference to the tribulation saints, where Jesus says that to those Gentiles, you visited me when I was sick. You visited me when I was in prison. Jesus in prison. Okay? So if Jesus can be in prison to be identification with his Jewish brethren in the tribulation, who says he can't be imprisoned as a result of new birth? And that's what has happened. And so through overcoming, through your journey as a Christian, then that divine seed is allowed to grow and push and break out through the soul, through the natural man, and eventually come to that place which 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 19 describes as the morning star rising in your hearts. When that happens, then the victory and the supremacy of Christ and that new humanity will shine forth as an end-time testimony. So, and by the way, that word morning star that is used there in 2 Peter 1:19, this means that Christ, revealed as the morning star, and that remnant at the end, is a signal to Satan that your replacement, final replacement in the heavens is coming. It is a testimony that represents like a shot across the bow of Satan, that eminent domain that was declared on the Mount of Transfiguration. Eminent domain is about to occur. You are about to be thrown out of heaven. That's what that morning star is going to represent, the adversary. And he is furious. It's an all-out fight, and it will be unto death. Okay? Go ahead. This is Connie.
And I might be way off in left field with this, but as we're talking about how it has to be Christian women, well, okay, so we're talking about an experience that happened, was planned when we were very, very young. So that was all in their strategy. At some point, they take you through this and see it, there's that heart response. So then they capture that. So this is for women that may believe that they are a nephillim mother, but they don't see themselves as Christian. That, if, like for me, I was programmed in my presenter